Was your week been, buddy? Good? Exciting?
Oh man, another day with my head thrust into the middle of this shitstorm. Yeah, I don't know. I'm beginning to, I feel like there are some signs that Joe Biden might not have a very progressive cabinet.
What? Are you a Trump supporter then?
There's some signs that this isn't gonna be great per se.
Wait a minute. Heidi Heitkamp, who's gotten a lot of money from the oil lobby, I think she's going to do great as Secretary of Agriculture. I think John Kasich has really got his finger on the pulse of America when he says the reason why Joe Biden won is America doesn't want crazy left policies.
Yeah. What's his name? Richard Stengel or Robert Stengel? Richard, I think. Left his job at MSNBC to join Biden's transition team. He was formerly with the State Department. And there's a great video of him saying, I'm a fan of propaganda. I think it needs to be used against our people. And I think it's not used enough. So.
Is he wrong? I mean, I like being willfully ignorant. I really enjoy it. I feel like at some point, you got to think that a lot of Americans are like Joe Pantoliano's character in The Matrix, who decides to just sell out when, and I don't know, for those of you who haven't seen the movie, but his character, they're in The Matrix and goes, you know what? I'm done fighting the revolution. Plug me back into the Matrix and give me, he's eating steaks. And he goes, I know this is just gruel. And you're telling me.
Cyprus, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I was like,
yeah, he's like, yeah, and if you have to kill off my friends to plug me back in, I'm fine with that.
I don't want to see the reality of the world. I just want to. And I think there's a lot of that's just a human, especially that we're so bred for that in America of just like, there's all this horrific shit. Yeah, but the malls are open. You know, like
I can't remember if I brought this up on Government Secrets before, but I've talked about it on my other podcast before. But there's a scene in They Live, right? The famous Roddy Piper movie with the glasses and the obey signs. And there's a scene where he tries to get his friend to put on the glasses and see the reality, and he has to fight him to get him to put on the glasses. And the fight, it lasts for, like, in movie time, it's forever. It's like 9 minutes long or something. It's like a ridiculous amount of time for two individuals in an alley to be fighting to put on these glasses. And he says, I don't want to. And he's fighting him and everything. And when I first saw it, I was like, oh, because they had a wrestler playing the star, they just figured they needed a long fight scene. But then I saw Slavoj Žižek's analysis of, he puts out analysis of movies, and he says the reason that, and it makes a lot of sense, the reason that fight is so ridiculously long is because trying to get people to put on the glasses and see the reality is a fucking never-ending fight where they will fight to the last moment to not see reality.
That movie gets better with time, and the more you wake up. Like when I saw it, I was in college and I was like, oh, come on, the fight. And it's like, you go back and it seems hokey. And I'm sure there's stuff that doesn't stand up because it's the 80s, but yeah.
And a lot of the people got to be ready. A lot of the special effects, quote unquote, are very cheesy. It's like stuff you can do with your home video camera. Sure.
But if you put it in context of the 80s, knowing what the technology, the limitations of the technology then, but then the messages, the obey, and that fight scene, it does seem so ridiculous at the time when I saw it. But now, as somebody that's been doing this show for 3.5 years, and I just watch people dance in the streets to celebrate Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, I really understand why that fight scene is so long, because we've lost friends, all of us. I mean, there's still people on social media, comics I've known for 20 some years, I can't be friends with anymore because you tell them, look at all the awful stuff Obama did. They don't want to hear it.
Oh man. I mean, you expect to be attacked by a certain type of people, but then when other people come after you that are supposedly people you looked up to or people you used to be friends with, you know, I hardly knew her back in New York, but John F. O'Donnell, who used to be on Redacted, and I was actually really good friends with her, Jenna Friedman. And she's a comedian who's like hardcore liberal, just Russiagate, like fucking horse blinders on. And out of the blue, we never said anything about her. We never talked to her. He hadn't seen her in years. She starts going on Twitter at me and John and the other people on Redacted Tonight, being like, "How dare you? You're working for Russia, you guys!" And we were like, "What the fuck?" And then John, like a few months later, runs into her at a comedy club, and he thinks like, "Oh, this is my old friend Jenna." Even after all of that, he thinks this is my old friend Jenna. I'm just gonna say hi to her. And he goes up and he's like, "Hey, Jenna," and she just tears into him. Like, "What's wrong with you, Putin's puppet?" Like, it's amazing.
She did that. She called Jimmy Dore a Russian asset on Twitter, and I retweeted it. This is a couple years ago, and I said, well, if this was the 1950s, you clearly would be selling out your fellow comedians and writers to the House of Un-American Activities Committee.
Right.
No response to that, of course, but that's what she would do. She would have, if she was in the 50s, she would have sold out everybody. All these Russiagators don't realize that's in essence what they're saying is they would gladly sell people out. I mean,
yep.
They would, if she could get us arrested in some sort of Russiagate gulag, she would do it. And it, you know, Comedy Central is going to keep letting her write. So they're fine. You know, like she's going to keep getting show business jobs because show business is run by the oligarchs. It's run by the ruling class.
I mean, you know, I'm not that old, but a lot of, you know, younger people under 30 don't quite understand what McCarthyism was, but like we did this whole thing before. And it got to the point where literally it was like, list the people in the industry, in Hollywood, in your, you know, in comedy that are communist or communist sympathizers. And it's like, you could list those people and they would instantly be blacklisted, lose their jobs, lose all ability to make a living. And this went on for, you know, years. People were afraid to quietly say like, "Hey, I think like, you know, like, I don't know if capitalism is the best policy. You know, maybe everybody could have enough money to eat." And it was like you whisper that to someone, and before you know it, you can't. A van pulls up and says you can't work in Hollywood anymore.
Oh yeah, I mean, people's lives were ruined. Really good, talented people's lives were ruined. And now you've got Jenna Friedman doing that same shit. And it's like, she thinks she's so woke. She's a monster. Like, I mean, I had arguments on my old movie podcast with on air, you know, just we'd be talking about some documentary or something. Politics would come up. And I remember one comic said, I listed all the awful shit, you know, Obama did. And they were like, yeah, but still better than Bush. And I was like, well, not if you lived in Yemen or Libya or Syria.
Well, and that's just a standard response where it's as if it needs no backing up. It needs no evidence. Yeah. You just for the liberal mindset, all you have to do is go, well, better than Bush. And then the end of discussion. Oh yeah, he is better than Bush. Like, and that they don't think they should be asked for any evidence or any proof of that. They don't think the discussion should go beyond that.
No, and buckle up for 4 years of every time you call out Biden's awful policy. Well, at least it's not like Heidi Heitkamp's awful. Yeah, but it's not Trump. And it's like, well, I could point to all the evidence of all of the Trump people in Trump's cabinet that were approved. I mean, Mike Pompeo's awful. Yeah, Dianne Feinstein voted for him. You know, like all the Democrats that rubber stamped Trump's cabinet. And then they always come back with, yeah, but they couldn't, the Senate was run by the Republicans. There's nothing they could do. They could vote their conscience even more. So it shows that there's even less risk if they voted against it. Because they're like, hey, they could go.
Yep.
Cabinetvotes.org. I voted against it.
A lot of Trump's people, what was it? I think General Mattis was like 98-1 or 2 or something. Mm-hmm. Like most of these people got approved overwhelmingly by Democrats.
I remember Dianne. This is one of the things that really woke me up after Trump won. And I really started to pay more attention to the way the Democrats play people and lie. Dianne Feinstein's Twitter feed was all Mike Pompeo, we don't condone torture. You take that elsewhere, Mr. Trump. And I was like, oh, wow. And all these likes. And you tell them, Dianne, that's right. You've been fighting for us for 30 years. And then I went to cabinetvotes.org, which most people don't do. And she voted for him. And I was like, that's all the Democratic Party does. And guess, buckle up. We're going to have a Republican Senate. So, which is John Kasich said it last week. He goes, this is the best thing that ever could have happened to Joe Biden. Because now, any lefty stuff he tries to pass, he can go, oh, the Republicans blocked us.
Right.
That's why we need your support and donate so we can turn the Senate blue in 22. Like, oh, fucking shit.
Right. Meanwhile, how much did it really stop Trump that he, didn't have the House or whatever? Like, it's like a lot of the shit he gets done, he just goes around Congress because Congress has become, at least a 70% meaningless body. They've completely let go of their powers of declaring war, of funding war. They've just, here, take all the money you can. We're never going to stop you. So really, they've ceded all their power. So Trump's just been doing whatever the fuck he wants to do, and he finds other ways to do it. If they say they're not going to fund the wall, well, I'll just steal money from DHS or whatever to make the wall. He just goes around it, which if you really wanted to get shit done, you could do. But Biden just wants, let's assume in the next couple of years, he's just going to go, I can't do anything because of the Congress.
That's exactly what he's going to do. And when the Senate does approve something that he wants, it'll be something horrific that either will have some name like the Save the Rainbows and Puppies Fund that deep down, it's like, oh, we're going to set puppies on fire with rainbow napalm or whatever, or it'll just be the, give Dr. Evil whatever he wants bill, and we won't hear about it because there'll be some manufactured outrage on social media and the regular media, and dipshit blue check people like Jenna Friedman will go, yeah, can you believe what Mitch McConnell said or something like that. And it's like, yeah, this is the distraction while both parties sign away more of our rights or give more money to Wall Street or increase the military budget.
And that's why it's like, it's tough to keep sounding like a broken record and repeating it, but so much of this spectacle is just designed to distract everybody. And I don't know if all of the players necessarily know it. I don't know that everybody in Congress really gets how they're just a distraction, but it's like the system has realized that, like, well, if you had representatives that actually represented the people, then the people demand things of them, and it gets in the way of the business community kind of ruling the world. So let's have those people in there. Let's have this, thing we look to and go, these are our representatives, but let's just kind of ignore it and just have all the real business go on behind closed doors. When was the last thing that altered by Congress that actually altered the way Wall Street functions? Like fucking none, unless you count giving them trillions of dollars. I suppose that was a nice thing they got to benefit from. But other than that, like at no point. So Wall Street just goes about their way. The military industrial complex goes about their way. I just talked about on the live stream I did that the reason Trump likely just fired the defense secretary and put in a yes man of his was, and this isn't the only reason, but part of it is that Trump keeps trying to bring the troops home from Afghanistan and they keep stopping him. And look, I'm no Trump fan. Trump's a fucking sociopathic, awful human being. But in this case, he wants to bring the troops home from Afghanistan, not because he loves troops, not because he gives a fuck about Americans, but because it's a campaign promise he can then point to when he runs in 2024 and go, look, I did it. So that's the main reason. But the Pentagon keeps stopping him, and the mainstream media as well, because the president isn't actually fucking running the military industrial complex. It's largely done over there, and the president signs off on something here and something there. But for the most part, the Pentagon it's a machine that just goes about its fucking destructive business without much input.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about this. So, by the way, we're on Gov't Secrets, episode 16 with Lee Camp.
Introduction in the middle of the show.
Yeah, we like a mid-show introduction. We like to just start, click record, and then just talk, and then go, oh, yeah, by the way, folks, you're listening to Gov't Secrets.
Yeah. Share it. Tell everybody about it. Tell them that you learned how the world works from government
Yes,
secrets.
it woke you up. Positive reviews in iTunes.
They forced the glasses on your face.
That's what this episode, that's what the show hopefully is doing, is forcing the glasses on your face. And by the way, I checked the numbers at Libsyn. The downloads keep going up and up for the show. People are getting on board with it, which is great. So thank you to everybody out there listening. If you
that's good to hear. I was thinking of replacing you, but that's good to hear. Secretly, they don't know, but secretly, I'm also the CEO. No, I'm kidding.
I was gonna do my own show just called Smoothie Secrets, and I was just gonna talk about my smoothies that had nothing to do with the CIA.
That was gonna be an awkward phone call where we each call each other at the same time and break the news. We were gonna replace each other. I was gonna replace you. Oh shit.
Hey, while we're on the subject, I was gonna not use you anymore. Well, I was
well, now that we're both jobless, do you want to start a podcast? Yeah, man. That sounds good.
We'll call it Secrets of the Government. It'll be fantastic.
We'll compete with that fucking government secrets. Why are they stealing all the fans?
Secrets of the Government, episode 1. With your new hosts, Graham Elton and Lee Camp.
What?
So much better than Government Secrets. That fucking shit podcast by those two hacks.
Don't listen to Government Secrets by Lee Camp and Graham Elwood. They're two dildos. Listen to Secrets of the Government.
It's another SOG episode, folks. All right, so this is what I wanted, because I talked about this a little bit on Political Vigilante, and we did a whole deep dive in the last episode about the top 10 American coups. And I'm gonna go deeper on one of them today. But there's
during which I was worried that we gave away 10 episodes worth in one episode. But
well, that's why we got to do Secrets of the Government, because then we'll do like kind of
this episode, top 200 government assassinations.
Those will just be the first 10 episodes of Secrets of the Government. The 10
okay, good call.
So there's a lot of talk. You brought up Trump firing his generals, which it was funny. I was talking to a friend. He's like, I don't know what's.
Well, no, they're not. It's not general. The defense secretary is not a general. It's just a fucking, what is he, former Lockheed Martin or Boeing or some shit? Anyway, right. Esper, but yeah.
That's right, not generals, but he's firing people within the Defense Department or the Pentagon or whatever. And my friend was like, "What's his long game?" I go, "Long game? He's shit nuts. He's just firing people."
Well, most people have had this boss, the boss where one day, like, whatever power he has, whether it's to make you do something you don't want to do, or just like, he puts down some decision where you're like, really? And he's like, just do it. It's like, it's not because of that thing. It's because he, his wife wouldn't fuck him, or her husband wouldn't fuck her, or like something bad he got a parking ticket, and he's just like exerting his control. So Trump lost the election, so now it's like, you're fired and you're fired. I still have 2 months to wreak havoc.
Just everything. How come this remote control's dirty? You're fired, sir.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
what? And I don't want the number 7 on this. Take it off. I told you.
I mean, he's firing the number 7. He's firing people for the same reason that he's right now rubbing his feces into the ornate lattice work of the 18th century furniture in the White House, is because it's to take out anger, and it's his final prank on America.
Ornate lattice work is probably my favorite magic trick. Ladies and gentlemen, an ornate lattice work. I gotta be honest, when I woke up this morning, never in my wildest dreams did ornate lattice work ever enter anything I was doing today. Never thought it would ever come up for any reason.
I once frequented a lady of the night named Lattice, and she did do some wonderful ornate lattice work with me.
Yeah, it sounds like Victorian or Elizabethan era prostitute sex act. Ornate gentlemen, must we retire for some ornate lattice work with some of these ladies? Like, it feels like.
Well, I did say we should rename the podcast Sentences You Haven't Heard Before. So,
more ornate lattice work with Lee Camp and Graham Elwood.
So so what I wanted to ask is, so there's talk that, especially in the media, that Trump is going to he's going to stage a coup. He's only got 60 some days left. He might not leave. Van Jones said this is how he could do it, or he's never, whatever. And how much of that, because the question I asked on my show was like, because Caitlin Johnstone brought up a great point. She's like, Trump's not going to stage a coup. It's just more bullshit that the corporate media can milk, because he's great for ratings. So every day now, everyone, we were tuning into the election. Who's going to win? Then we had a week of what's going to happen. Everybody watched the map show. And now is Trump going to leave? So they just got to milk as much ratings out of this guy as they can. Is it just more distraction, which the media we talk about, that's what they do? Or is there any truth that he might just, because there's a part of me that's like, I mean, he's definitely capable of just going nuts and saying, I'm not leaving, or, hey, Second Amendment friends, go make it, take back America, or whatever. So what do you think? Do you think is this a government secret that there's everyone around him is starting to say, look, even Republicans are starting to say, we know he lost. We're just not going to say that publicly yet, because they don't want him to fire everybody or whatever. So how much of there's going to be panic in the streets, Trump coup in the next 2 months is real? And how much of it is like media hype?
I think most of it's bullshit. But I will say that, like, people also didn't think he'd do half of the shit he's done. Like, they didn't think that he would actually not admit he lost. They didn't think that he would push court cases that are laughable. Like, literally all of the fucking idiots on, there's some of Fox News has admitted it, but there's other idiots like Hannity that say it's not over and shit. All these idiots on mainstream media that are Trump goons that are like, it's not over, it's going to the courts. They may say, I saw all this fraud. They put me on one panel. I had to debate one of these people that's like, there 40,000 dead people voted. I watched the zombies walk into the voting booth, just like making up fucking numbers. And here's the thing. It's like all of that being said in media, none of that's being said in the courtroom. Like, they're losing every single one of these court cases. And the prosecutor, Trump's lawyers are not even, claim, like, when they're pressed by the judge, have you seen any fraud? They say, no, I haven't actually. So they're clearly and obviously in court saying they haven't found any fraud. And if they have, it was one person. I think they found one person in Pennsylvania that claimed to be his dead mother so that he could vote twice, but he was a Trump supporter. Like, and still, even if they did find one or two cases of fraud, this is not 100,000 cases of fraud. So anyway, that's laughable. Trump apparently, according to most of these reports, although I don't know how much to trust them, is getting it in his head that there's no way around this. I think at first he thought he could just keep denying it. I mean, his whole life and career has been about just denying the inevitable. I mean, and a lot of times it fucking works, man. It's crazy. If you're that rich and that powerful, meaning his celebrity is power, you can just make shit happen by saying it's happening. It's fucking bizarre. Like, with the stuff that just came out a month ago with Deutsche Bank, he owed them hundreds of millions of dollars from the failed skyscraper in Chicago, and he just kept saying he didn't. And then ultimately they changed it from like 400 million to 100 million. They just erased $300 million worth of debt because he wouldn't say it didn't exist. Like, it's just crazy. So he does have this idea that if you just keep saying something, it will happen. But even he apparently is starting to get the message that this is, not working, and I think he will give in. He'll never admit that it was a legit election. Someone said he'll probably go to Mar-a-Lago for Christmas and never come back. And probably spend the next 4 years saying he's going to run in 2024, and raising money and probably doing fundraisers. I mean, they're raising money right now. By the way, if anyone knows anyone who donates to the Trump recount lawsuit fund, that money is not going to the Trump recount lawsuit fund. Apparently, if you read the fine print, almost all of it is going to a Trump super PAC. So you're just funding Trump's pursuits. You're not funding a lawsuit that you think you are.
I love that. I love it so much.
I mean, he doesn't. Here's the thing: is if he had more of the deep state and the machinery of our country behind him, he possibly could pull this off. The thing is, he does not have the machinery of America behind him. Now, that doesn't mean no future wannabe dictator couldn't manufacture the same situation and have that machinery and have the military fully behind them and have the kind of the deep state, the reams of people down below the top people in a lot of these places behind them, the CIA, stuff like that. But he doesn't have that stuff. So without the machinery of America, it doesn't matter if he clings to a desk in the White House. It doesn't change anything.
Well, let me ask you this, because obviously the Democrats cheat in their primaries. They've done very thorough jobs of that, especially the last two primaries. What's to say they didn't cheat in this general?
Well, the cheating that Democrats have done in the primary, most of it that I've covered extensively, it's evident. You see what goes on. I mean, with Iowa, it was the shadow app, it was so clearly. It was designed by former Clinton staffers 2 months before the thing, and it was a complete catastrophe, but that's what they wanted. They wanted a catastrophe in Iowa so Bernie wouldn't get the bump. Closing polling places that Bernie was doing well in. They did that in Texas, pushing the provisional ballots in California. The 200,000 that they admitted to in court. See, again, when you see it working, when you see them actually losing cases in court, that's when you know it's real. And 200,000 people were purged in New York City and Brooklyn, likely Bernie voters. That was in 2016. And ultimately in court, this is after the election, but ultimately in court, they had to admit that they had purged 200,000 likely Bernie voters. And the Board of Elections, got whatever. They had to change some things. They got a slap on the wrist because of it. But the court proved that they had done it. And so you see that kind of thing. With Trump right now, you don't see that kind of thing because the Democrats do not run the general election infrastructure in the way they do their own primaries. So, I mean, if it were the same in Pennsylvania as it was with Bernie in New York, you would have tons of people, as you did with Bernie, coming forward and saying, I tried to vote. They wouldn't let me. They said I'm not on the rolls, all this stuff. But all the people saying they were purged from the voting list and weren't on the rolls are mostly Democrats because the Republicans are far better at that in the general. So,
well, that's a good thing to know here. So I don't put the one thing I'll say about, you're right. You're starting to see sort of the true people in power going, no, Trump, sorry, dude, it ain't going to happen because if he blows everything up, it's bad for business, right? Like if there's panic in the streets, nobody's buying anything or whatever. Although the banks and the military industrial complex would profit from a civil war. They would absolutely profit from a civil war. And the NRA would be like, some people would profit, but a civil war would make America so weak that they don't actually think like that. They want things to largely run smoothly. I mean, they have the exploitation of Americans on lock. So it's like, why rock that boat? Yeah, that is true. So I wonder, and also I saw this interesting thing on Democracy Now, which is really just a half an inch away from MSNBC on many of its broadcasts. But
dude, they used to be so good, and they just
I know.
I don't know.
I think Amy Goodman suffers from Trump derangement syndrome, and she just is so nuts on Trump. She just can't hold the Democrats accountable. Way she talks about another corrupt, like her voice, the tone of her voice is noticeably agitated whenever she talks about Trump, and she just won't do that with the Democrats. She just won't.
A lot of good people. I've seen a lot of good people go the way of the Trump derangement syndrome.
Yeah, it was a really solid program, and I really liked her work, and they still do some good stuff, but anyway, but they did have this woman on today who brought up a good point of one of the reasons why Trump doesn't want to leave is there's a bunch of lawsuits, and he could literally do jail time because there's some case against him in New York that if he's no longer president, he's done, and he could go to jail, which is another thing. Somebody was a Scaramucci said in an interview, who, he worked for Trump and knows him, said that some people are hopefully going to get in his ear and go, look, you need to concede this and be nice to Joe Biden because he can pardon you.
Yeah.
Which is what presidents always take care of each other when push comes to shove, no matter what party you're in.
Well, yeah, that is true. They do always take care. I mean, look at them hugging George Bush and everything, but Trump is out of a different universe than the regular ruling elite. Yeah. He really has upset the normal ruling elite. And so I don't know that they're going to be as kind to him as they are to like a Bush. Because everything Bush did was part of the kind of business community's decision to secure American hegemony. Whereas with Trump, he's done plenty of things that the business community doesn't like. And, most of it comes back to his ego. It's not about helping people or anything. So, yeah, no, he has a lot to fear. He has that to fear. Apparently, some of these hundreds of millions of dollars of debt is supposed to come due in a year or two. So he may also be facing that. Yeah, he's going to have a lot of shit raining down on him. And I mean, that makes sense that he wants to stay in there. But I think the reason he wants to stay in there and not admit defeat is because he's gone his whole life denying the fact that he's a loser. I mean, this is a bankrupt guy who tells everyone he's worth $10 billion or whatever it was before he got president. And that's him denying defeat, denying that he's a fucking loser.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I worry about, because clearly he had some sort of evil dad who just, tortured him or whatever. And so admitting defeat, it's why he literally cannot admit he's wrong. Like, he has a disorder. He can't admit he's wrong. And what I had Dave Anthony on the show, whose wife is a therapist, and she made a point, like when he first became president 4 years ago, she was like, look, that type of personality disorder, when the reality of what actually confronts the internal reality of I'm the best, I'm number one, I'm never wrong, I'm a millionaire, I'm not in debt, when those things confront each other, then that personality type goes crazy, they explode. And that's my fear, is that when it's really like, dude, you're done, he's going to do something crazy.
I mean, yeah. I mean, if you want to see how crazy this kind of derangement is that Trump is, what kind of sociopath he is, look at how often he had to talk about the fact that he had the most people at his inauguration ever, even though he didn't. He had like half as many as Obama, like nowhere near the number that came to Obama inauguration. But here's the thing, that he had just won the presidency. Who the fuck cares about the number of people at the inauguration? It doesn't fucking matter. You are you can walk around going, I'm the fucking president. Right. But his derangement is so extreme that the fact that he, quote unquote, lost in terms of inauguration numbers is like crushing to him. So he had to walk around justifying it by telling everyone he had the most people ever at the inauguration. And it's like, dude, the fact that upset him that much, like that is a fucked up human being.
Well, it's going to be an interesting 60 some days. I tell you that much. Got about 67 days. We'll see how that goes. So what do you want to talk about next? What do you have a secret, or you want
to? Yeah. Would you rather I go or you want to go?
Well, I was going to do the Chile one. Should I do mine first and then yours, or yours and then you tell me? What were you going to
do? Since we did, I mean, we could probably get them both in, but since we did some fascist dictators last week, let's do the one I was going to do.
Okay.
Government secret. Segment number 2.
So part of the kind of myth of America, the story behind America, which we are told again and again and again, and it's so important to know, and it's so important to make everyone love America, is that, yes, we had this time in our past where we had a little bit of slavery. There was a little bit of slavery going on. But we saw the error of our ways, and we have fixed that, and Abraham Lincoln came in, and he emancipated the slaves. What a fucking hero. And after that day, there was no more slavery in America. because we're the greatest and we did it. And so that's those are the history books that Trump wants to hand out. And here's the thing is that not only, imagine this, not just the South, but really in America in general, but more so the South. You have several million black people who had been slaves, who have been brought over here as property or their family had. And now they're free, but they kind of have nothing. And do you think the South and those who had owned slaves were just like, oh, yeah, that's cool. Yeah, you're free now. See you later. Or do you think they found ways around it? And
I don't know. Let me see. I'm not sure. I think they probably would like, here's your freedom. We want you to have freedom. Here's equality. 40 acres and a mule. Oh, wait.
So the 13th Amendment, which we still have in this country, allows for slavery. As long as you are a prisoner, as long as you've been arrested for something. And anybody who understands our criminal justice system, understands how our police, our white supremacist police network works, you can be arrested for anything. You could be grabbed because you're standing there. And when they try to grab you, you were like, what the fuck? And then they accuse you of resisting arrest. And now you're in prison for resisting arrest and attacking a police officer. Like, you don't have to have actually done anything to be arrested in this country. And I think a lot of kind of privileged white people, and I count myself in that boat, kind of grew up thinking that wasn't the case. You had to do something really wrong to get arrested.
Right.
But in fact, you can be arrested for almost nothing. And especially in, the late 1800s, early 1900s, black people were just arrested all the time for essentially nothing. I mean, especially if you're like walking through a town and you're not known by the people around. Like, if you didn't have a network of people that were like, oh no, he's cool, then the cops would just grab them up, and so you get put into the system. And then our Constitution says at that point that person can be a slave. So that's how the South found their way around it. And that doesn't mean that they had an equal number of slaves, but they had a lot of slaves who were prisoners and forced to work for zero and for years. And of course, let's say you only were sentenced to a year. It's easy to have that person serve more than a year. All the guards or whatever have to do is go, oh, he assaulted me, more year, throw another year on or whatever. It's easy to keep someone in prison once you got them in prison. I mean, who are they going to turn to? Who's going to help them get out? And so not only did you have that, but you also had a system that is now illegal where plantations could, purchase this labor of prisoners and sell them from plantation to plantation or whatever, field to field, owner to owner, as like their prison labor. And so it was exactly the same as slavery. And, there's some documents where it was actually worse than slavery, because in this case, the owners of these prison slaves didn't give a fuck whether they worked these people to death, because it wasn't technically their property. If they work someone to death, they just move on to the next one, call up the prison, say, hey, I need another. It wasn't, it was a temporary property, so they could just kill them and move on. So it was, in some cases, it was even worse than regular slavery. And this went on, the selling of prison labor went on for years. And I don't have here the year it was outlawed, but it was far later than you think. But prison labor in this country has not been outlawed and continues to this day. And they're paid, sometimes they're paid $1 an hour. Sometimes they're paid almost nothing. And we here's another myth that we're told is like, oh, they choose to do it. These prisoners choose to be firefighters in California or to, let's see, this is from, in terms of the other industries that hire these people, this is from Peter Joseph's, The New Human Rights Movement. He says, numerous corporations exploit prison population today, earning as little as 23 cents an hour in some cases. Modern prisoners make things for the U.S. military, McDonald's, Microsoft, Starbucks, along with furniture, car parts, solar panels, and a host of other goods. So that's just a couple of the corporations. I know Victoria's Secret used to be involved in as well. And so this slave labor continues to this day in America.
which is another reason America's so great. I mean, it's really we're doing fantastic stuff. No, it's funny because like so much of what America was built on is still happening. I mean, the slavery, the genocide, and you look at how awful. I mean, it was obviously early colonialism was just capitalism, early stages of awful capitalism. I saw this tweet yesterday. This woman, I think it was on TikTok and somebody retweeted it, but she was talking about she worked in retail and all.
Oh, I know that outlet, TikTok. I love them. They do good work.
Yeah. That news outlet. She was talking about she worked in retail and they would make her cut up these bras that were no longer in season or whatever. And then it's just this stream of all these people working at Walmart. We throw away food rather than donate it. Like how capitalism destroys products rather than giving it to people.
Yeah.
And we've just been plundering the earth for hundreds of years. And it's like, and you talk about, so there's the actual slavery that you're talking about here, and that this country, and again, when that documentary came out,
Matrix.
That's a really good documentary.
It's a great documentary.
When that documentary came out, 13th, that explained that, like, I was I didn't really know that there was that loophole in there and that history of it. And it shows you, and it makes so much sense. And you see when people go, oh, there's no systemic racism. Yeah, there is. It's in the Constitution. And also what that has done is it has denied intergenerational wealth. Like I look at my family, right? So both my mom and dad's side of the family, my great grandparents emigrated from Ireland, right? Or Europe, some from Ireland, some from Europe. And they worked hard, but they chose to come here. They weren't brought here as slaves. They didn't have their land taken away from them. They chose to came here. Some of them were homesteaders and they built land up, and then they passed that along. My grandfather fought in World War I. He became a small town lawyer, and he was not a crazy wealthy man, but he left my mom a little bit of money. And my mom, and that's, you see how that's passed through the generations, and it's not huge sums of money. It's not like blue blood, but it's little sums of money. So that's one of the things that does not exist in high percentages of the Black community in America, because they never had it. They never got out of slavery. I mean, again, I mentioned 40 acres and a mule because that's what each slave was promised. You're free now, where the government's going to give you 40 acres and a mule so you could start growing your own, being your own. No, that was a lie. They never got it. Most of them.
Which how hilarious is that? We stole this land from the indigenous. We're going to give it to you, who we kidnapped from Africa. Never mind. We're going to steal it also from you. That's called the double steal. That's the rare double steal. That's good.
That's good old American exceptionalism right there. We figured out how to stick it to you twice, right? Isn't that
stick it to various minority groups?
All at the same time. So it's like you see this, and this last year, but especially since George Floyd, of people, especially, look, I'm a middle class straight white guy, so I understand a lot of my privilege, and it's been important for me, for people like you and I, to really see the privilege that we've enjoyed.
I don't know what you're talking about. I have no privilege. I mean, as a poor Black youth, I feel like I really understood how horrible America can be, and but you have the privilege. I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, to the All Lives Matter crowd, when they always tell how they pull themselves up by their bootstraps, I'm like, let me see if I got this right. You were born into a nice middle class family. You had nice middle class schools. I paid for my own college, right? That you were able to do and get student loans, and you went to a good high school that could get into the school to begin with. Like they never see that.
Right. The best way to describe systemic racism to someone who just can't get it is like, even a poor white person is like, look, you've had a lot of trouble in your life, issues in your life, problems in your life, but almost none of those have come because of your race. They've come, and I talk about all those issues as well that make America fucked up or capitalism fucked up, but they're not coming to you because of your race. Right. They're coming to you for other reasons.
Yeah, they're coming to you for capitalism. I mean, it's really like you've been screwed over by the ruling class, but they didn't deliberately do it because of the color of your skin. which is a valid point. So, and then you've got just the working poor that we have in this country right now, the wage slaves, the people that are, I mean, they're working, they have full-time jobs. Like since all the manufacturing jobs got taken away, mainly because of stuff like NAFTA and just globalization in general, food is like one of the number one jobs now, especially in big parts of the country that used to have a strong manufacturing economy, and that manufacturing economy is largely gone. So now they're working in food service, and they're still like, or driving for Lyft and Grubhub or whatever. And some people are still having to like donate plasma to pay their bills.
Oh my God. This is actually a good government secret. So I often describe our unfettered capitalist, late stage capitalist country as, vampiric in nature, parasite sucking off the blood of your average citizen, the hard work of your average citizen. But only probably a year ago did I discover literally that 94%, I believe it is, of all paid plasma, paid blood donations come from America, because paying for stealing someone's blood is illegal in most other countries.
Oh my God. Government secret. Bonus evil.
Bonus evil.
Wow.
Nothing like some good bonus evil. But so it's like literally a parasitic system that is sucking the blood of the poor. And most of the people, I mean, all of the people I'd say just about donating blood for money are poor. Many of them are incredibly desperate, and many of them are like regulars. Like, because there's supposed to be rules on how often you can give blood, because you can fucking die doing it or get sick or whatever if you don't have enough blood. But like most of these places that pay for blood just overlook the rules, and so you'll have people that are like ill still giving blood because they can't fucking go on.
Well, donating blood and donating plasma are two slightly different things. So
are they? Sorry.
Yeah, just to clarify that. So because I've done both, blood you can only donate every 60 days, because you literally are your body can't do that. But plasma, they separate it.
Right, but don't they have to draw the blood to separate it?
Oh yes, I've done this in my early 20s when I needed money. I remember I did this.
Right, but so doesn't that count as drawing blood?
Here's what they do. They draw the blood, take the plasma out, and then put the blood back in. So you're not...
I was unaware they put it back in.
Yeah. It's that makes it better. So that's how you're able to donate plasma like every 2 weeks or something like that.
Wouldn't it be amazing if we were like debating a Republican right now? It's like, you're acting like it's a bad thing. They put it back. They put it back.
It's not theft. You got paid. What are you supposed to just don't? And so like donating blood to like the American Red Cross or something, that's just, you don't get, the American Red Cross doesn't pay you. It's just, I've done it sort of like
and by the way, no one should do that, because Red Cross is a fucking awful organization.
Well, I've been a Red Cross volunteer for a long time, so I know that I'm not saying, hold on. Well, we can get into, I'm not saying there aren't good people there. There are plenty of good volunteers. Sure. There's plenty of people doing great stuff, but if there are better organizations to donate to, because like, if you look in some of these disaster areas, what the Red Cross has done has been almost like not useful at all. And they'll often take more blood than they need. Anyway, there's issues. So I'm not saying volunteers aren't good people. No, I understand. There's numerous criticisms of the hierarchy of the American Red Cross, and I would say many of them are valid. But as someone who's been a disaster volunteer, I've been there and I've helped people and I've worked at shelters, and that donation money, that system, I personally believe is good. But that's another episode to dispute. But what I will say about plasma is that's where you get the money. Usually the plasma places are the ones that pay you. So like when you donate blood to the American Red Cross, they don't pay you. But when you go to
you donate, that's unpaid. So if you donate plasma and they put back the blood they've separated, are you like fine?
Yes, you literally, you're pretty okay. I mean, every person's different, but like when you,
I would have defined you as pretty okay, even now.
So when you just donate a pint of blood and they take it and don't put it back, you have to build that back up, and they tell you, you have to be careful, don't work out for enough 24 hours or whatever. Plasma, they just take the plasma out of your blood, put the rest of it back in. And I remember doing that in my early 20s, and the people there, it was all poor people. It was all people, who were donating their plasma. And I did it a couple of times, and I'm like, this is horrific. This is an awful system. And it's like, and you're like, oh, you get paid, and you're helping the medical community or whatever. And it's just like, and then when you add the statistic that 94% of it comes from America because it's illegal in most countries, of course it is illegal. Of course it's horrific. And of course, Americans, we're so the lobsters in the pots. We have no idea how awful our system is. We think, wow, should get paid. Why? What's wrong with making some money? Like, no, you should. Our for-profit medical system literally is vampires. It's awful.
Yeah. It's incredible. I mean, I myself, for years now, I've been donating semen, but just on the subway and on the bus, not officially, but I leave it around if anyone I leave it around if anyone needs some.
Yeah, like one of those things. A penny is like, take a penny, leave a penny.
Yeah, take some semen, leave some semen.
Take some spunk, leave some spunk.
Oh, that would make for a sticky little leave a penny dish. It was only funny that those leave a penny things are always in like a petri dish, because it really is a petri dish. Those things really are a petri dish.
So you just walk up to the counter and go,
hey, I just want to pass this along to the next person.
Anybody need a baby later? There you go. There.
Have a baby, leave a baby. If you have extra babies, leave one. If you need a baby,
leave a baby.
Have a baby, leave a baby. That'd be a great program.
I'll pick babies on the bus and on the train, and I'll pick one up. Like, whatever. It's fun. It's like a mix and match.
Some people call it kidnapping, but I call it redistribution of wealth.
I'm socializing children.
Exactly.
Socializing childcare.
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm the bad guy here.
Yes.
Oh,
exactly. Oh, I'm the bad guy. I took your son for a few hours and put him in a different location around the city, and I'm the bad guy.
Find a baby, leave a baby. Right? I think it's more of a communal garden kind of a thing.
I think we should ask the listeners whether this is a program they'd like for us to get to get started, and there'll be t-shirts. There'll be t-shirts.
Hey, Lee, it takes a village to raise a child. So
all right. On that note, we want to run through another government secret here.
Government secret. Not sure which third segment, maybe, but probably the last one.
Probably the last one.
Well, okay. So last week we did the top 10 American coups, and I wanted to kind of go. We just kind of did a broad strokes. I wanted to do. And by the way, we are going to put outside a take a coup, leave a coup dish. If there's a coup.
We do here in America, we do have extra coups, so we just leave them around the world. We're like, here, you take a coup and you take a coup. We don't even need them anymore.
Like an Oprah show, and you get a coup, and you get a coup.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm going to share the screen here. I wanted to go a little deeper into Chile, what we did in that fine country, because I don't know, that might be happening here, and maybe we should be paying attention to it. So I went to several sites, U.S. foreign policy and the 1973 coup in Chile. The 1973 Chilean coup has sparked one of the most controversial policy debates in contemporary politics today. Many believe it can be used as a beneficial case study, which demonstrates how underlying and hidden factors often affects U.S. foreign policy. You think the hidden factor is the CIA. After months of rising political tensions on September 11th, 1973, Chile's democratically elected president, Allende government was overthrown by armed forces and Allende. Okay. Yep. Si, senor. Backed by the CIA, our old friends, the CIA, we have not done, this is our 16th episode. We have never done one that didn't talk about the CIA in at least one segment. There's impossible.
It's probably true. We're CIA heavy on this.
We are. Government. So backed with the CIA in the United States, Government Augusto Pinochet, head of the armed forces, led the coup and rose to power. I just want to point that out. So if any Trumpy nuttiness happens in the next 60 some days, and suddenly a general is going to rise up to take over in a short-term step, like, oh, it's all chaos in the streets and there's no order and Biden hasn't been sworn in and Trump's no longer in power. We don't know what's going on. Oh, this general is going to take over. Be careful. Be careful.
Right. Right.
Although it is now confirmed that the U.S. government were heavily involved within the coup in Chile, many academics still argue over the main logic for the coup policy. Although analyzing the primary and secondary sources, it is possible to attribute President Nixon, tricky dick, huh? Advisor Kissinger. Oh, not the first time we've mentioned.
Oh, what are the odds?
He must have just made a mistake and gotten involved in this. Kissinger. He's Hillary's friend, so he must be cool, right?
Could you imagine if he was just, it turns out Kissinger his whole life was just Forrest Gumping his way through all this shit. He was like, what? I created another coup. That was napalm. I thought it was a box of chocolates.
Illegal in Cambodia. Whoops. I didn't know.
What? Shit.
Oh, I thought the B-52 was in a different zone. I don't know what happened.
And he always sounded like Jerry Lewis.
Yeah.
What?
No. Tonkin, I hardly knew her. Warp, warp. Just advisor Henry Kissinger and containment policy as the three main contributing factors which are behind the logic toward Chile's policy. Once analyzing declassified papers, it is possible to come to the conclusion that presidential advisors played a leading role in the decision to throw a coup in Chile. United States National Security Archive Director Comblu attributes advisor Henry Kissinger specifically as one of the main architects behind the policy.
And this is someone that like Hillary touts as a friend. I think he even endorsed Biden. I think Biden made a point of announcing he was endorsed by Kissinger. Like, this is, all these people love Kissinger. Bush, they all love Kissinger.
So when everyone's like Kissinger, if Hillary likes Kissinger, then he must be great. So just know that when like journalists were getting executed in soccer stadiums in Chile, Kissinger helped with that. So I hope everybody's just on board with how good our boy Hank is. From his releasing of declassified phone records, it is not difficult to see that Kissinger was concerned with Chile long before the coup. Comments such as, "We will not let Chile go down the drain." Nice.
Right. Go down the drain means ending poverty.
Yeah, exactly. That was the drain.
The drain in his worldview, the drain is poverty.
Yeah. Like we can't have,
the drain is ending poverty.
Yeah. We can't let governments, sovereign land take care of all their own people when they have resources or strategic points that we need. Can't let that happen. The statements such as these are what justify arguments which suggest that Kissinger's fear of communist influence in South America drove CIA operations in Chile. Moreover, within his report of the Chilean coup, Briscoe suggests that Kissinger was fearful of losing many South American countries to communism. Boy, that we're afraid communism in the region, boy, that has caused so much fun stuff throughout the world. It's just fantastic.
So I know some comedians who would have loved to help Kissinger out all those communists.
Yes. A lot of blue check comedians. Jenna Friedman would have loved to go down to Chile to get those communists.
to cause a government coup.
Yeah, to cause a government coup and have people get, academics and socialists get set on fire or whatever. They were tortured. So this is what drove CIA operations in Chile. Moreover, within his report on the Chilean coup, Briscoe suggests, I already said that, as Kissinger was national security advisor, there is no doubt that his fears would have influenced presidential decisions throughout the 70s. Kissinger's statement, combined with these academic comments, therefore can be considered to be useful in analyzing the logic behind the coup. They allow us to consider Henry Kissinger's fear of communist influence in South America as a large factor influencing the logic behind the coup.
So I have a second government secret that is incredibly fascinating. Stop me if did I already talk about Project Cybersyn at some point?
No. Oh,
Okay.
I love anytime a GovSeek has a project in the title, I love it.
Well, this is a good kind of project. So part of the reason they felt the need to take out Allende was because of, like you're saying, fear of communism, but really socialism, and the fact that he was achieving success with his socialism. And so anybody can look up on Wikipedia Project Cybersyn, Cybersyn. And it's kind of groundbreaking if you consider the time this was happening. This is 1971 to 73. And Project Cybersyn was and I'll read a quote here, was a distributed decision support system to aid in the management of the national economy. The project consisted of 4 modules: an economic simulator. This is 71. Like, these are simple computers. An economic simulator, custom software to check factory performance, an operations room, and a national network of telex machines that were linked to one mainframe computer. Basically, before national computing systems were a thing, Allende and Chile were setting up a national computing system that could monitor socialism to make sure that both factories are running, but also that the economy is helping everyone, that measuring things like poverty and things like that. So to America, this is the grand nightmare. This is a sophisticated form of socialism that would, monitor and make sure people are not going poor, homeless, or factory workers aren't struggling. Oh
God, no! Oh no! We better stop that. If we have hard data that shows people maybe slipping into poverty, and we can prevent it before it happens, yeah.
And if you go to the Wikipedia page, which, by the way, Wikipedia has a lot of problems, but that doesn't mean there aren't. I mean, at times they're garbage, but that doesn't mean that this is false. And I've read this other places, so it's not just Wikipedia. But if you go to the Wikipedia entry, Project Cybersyn, there's an image there of the what they call it, the operations room, and it looks like Star Trek before Star Trek existed. It's impressively sophisticated. I assume there were a million problems with it, so I'm not saying that this is like a computing level that we have now or anything. But to me, it's just hilarious that this is like American empire's nightmare, is like a sophisticated, high-tech socialism that actually helps make sure everything is running smoothly and the economy is running smoothly and people are not suffering. This is their nightmare. And so it's like there's an easy argument to make that it wasn't just that socialism existed in Chile. It was that they were doing it it's such an advanced and technological way that it had to be stopped before it became like a perfect example of people doing things differently outside of capitalism, or at least, kind of unfettered capitalism, and doing it well, and people not suffering. I mean, this is the same reason we need to crush Venezuela right now. It's because because of our economic sanctions, they're struggling now. But before our heavy economic sanctions, they cut poverty by extreme poverty by 70%, regular poverty by 50%. No one starves in Venezuela, at least not before our crushing economic sanctions. So similarly, this was incredibly awful for Kissinger. This was a fucking nightmare.
That is the cornerstone of so many of these things is, oh no, the word might get out at how horrific capitalism is and how taking care of all of its citizens, like what indigenous tribes did for thousands of years. There was no poverty in an indigenous, there's nobody living like there was no, like, they took care of everybody.
Right. I read something recently where the idea, like for certain indigenous communities, not all of them, but for certain indigenous, the idea of someone like, let's say, catching a bunch of meat or collecting a bunch of food and just keeping it all to themselves in their home or whatever, or in their tent or whatever they had, like that idea didn't even register to them. It would be so bizarre to them. They couldn't even process, like, you live in this community. Why would you not, if you collected a ton of food, why would you not give it out to the people you supposed to care about?
Yeah. If you hoard it for yourself, then your family and the people in your tribe are not going to, then they could go hungry. Like they can't even process it. It's so
right.
And we're so conditioned to be evil and just we're so conditioned to this horrific thing. We're like, well, of course you'd sell your plasma for money. What? Of course. Well, if you make money and that guy doesn't, of course you drive by when he lives in a box and it's not your problem. Like he didn't work hard enough. Like we're so conditioned for just awful to have to, well, of course you should pay for your health care. What are you gonna get free health care? What's next? Letting people live decent lives with dignity? Like, come on. Like it's, and this, there's the concept, and even like the leaders, and I know we're generalizing, and you could find, so, all right, this tribe did some awful shit or whatever, but for the most part, the indigenous people had to live off the land. So that means they had to work with each other. That means a chief or a leader, if someone went hungry, he was considered a bad chief. He was like, you failed. Yeah. You have people that you're in charge of that are hungry, that you couldn't protect, that you couldn't feed. What the hell kind of leader are you? Right. And in our world, it's like, hey man, I squeezed a bunch of nickels out of poor people, and then I kicked him in the face and charged him for putting blood on my boot. Like it's unreal.
Yeah.
But that's Allende committed the most egregious crime of high-tech calculations and data collection on how to make people's lives better. That's right. He committed.
There's no greater crime than that.
How dare you, sir? Get Kissinger on the phone. Well, I want to know how we can torture these people because this is alarming. Like, watch the movie Fog of War.
Yeah.
It talks about how Robert McNamara, how misguided we were. And the part of that,
he was the defense secretary during Vietnam,
during all of Vietnam. And the thing that stands out, there's two things that stand out the most to me of Fog of War. One, Ho Chi Minh came to the United States in the late 1940s and saw our Bill of Rights, our history, our Constitution, and went, oh, the French, we're a French colony. We want to be independent. Of course, America is going to support us, is what Ho Chi Minh thought. We just want our independence. And we were like, whoa. And then some like 30 years after the Vietnam War, Robert McNamara basically met with his North Vietnamese counterpart. And he goes, just to show you how out of touch we were, they started to get into an, he's like, well, you guys, we were worried you were going to link up with the Chinese. And the North Vietnamese guy goes, the Chinese? Have you ever read a history book? We hate the Chinese. We don't like the Chinese at all. They were our masters for 100 years. Like, what are you talking about? Genghis Khan? Like, what do you mean? And he was like, oh, we just thought communism was going to link up. Like, no, no regional understanding, nothing.
Right. No actual understanding of the people or their culture. I mean, that's also how we're dealing with the Middle East. We don't understand any of it.
Right. They're just all Muslims. We don't realize the
the
Sunnis, the Shiites, and the Kurds are three very different groups of people. It's like somebody coming to America going, wow, they're all Christian. No, but the Catholics and the evangelicals and they're very, very different groups. No, whatever. They all go to some church and pray to some weird guy with a beard, and, whatever. They got that cross they look at. That's exactly what we're doing in the Middle East with no concept whatsoever of what's happening. But I think this is a good final GovSeek segment is the deep dive on Chile and of course all roads lead back to our boy Kissinger in the CIA.
All roads lead. That would be also a good name for the podcast. All roads lead to Kissinger.
All right, Lee Camp, where can people view all of your musings?
Yeah, everybody, please support the show. Please share it. Let people know. And also, a lot of what we talk about is timeless. So please go back and listen to previous episodes if this is a new experience for you. All of my stuff is at leecamp.com. I have a TV show called Redacted Tonight every week. I have a book out. You can get that at leecampbook.com. I have a comedy special. Anyway, the best place to go is leecamp.com. And I did just join Rockfin, so I'm rockfin.com/leecamp.
Dude, that's awesome. Yes. Please listen to Government Secrets on iTunes and Spotify. Download it, give it a positive review, 5-star review. All that stuff helps. And again, like Lee said, if you're new to the show, this is episode 16. All 16 episodes are in the archive. And most of what we talk about is pretty timeless. So downloading and listening to old episodes, that all helps the algorithm of the show.
And if you want to get, normally if we're going to do something topical, we start with it. So if you could just fast forward and then wait till you hear or whatever it is Graham does, and that means new segment. So
yeah, anytime you hear that's or beginning or something like that. And then all my stuff is at grahamelwood.com. My YouTube show, The Political Vigilante, we go live 4 or 5 days a week, and we drop 2 to 3 clips a day. So please subscribe to that, like that. I am also on rockfin.com/GrahamElwood, which is free to sign up. I have a bunch of free content on there. And if you sign up for the premium content on Rockfin, which is $10 a month, you get access to everybody's premium content. Mine, Lee's, Jimmy Dore, Whitney Webb, Kim Iverson, Richard Medhurst, Ron Placone, Convo Couch, all these folks. So check that out. And of course, follow me at Graham Elwood on the Twitters. So that's our show, Government Secrets, episode 16. Put it in the books. The Kissinger series.
Thanks, everyone. Good chatting with you, Graham.
Nice chatting with you, too. Remember now, take a baby, leave a baby.
Take a baby, leave a baby. Absolutely. Later, man.
We'll see you later. Thanks for watching, everybody. Please hit the like button, the subscribe button. Go to patreon.com/GrahamElwood and rockfin.com/GrahamElwood, where you can support the show. Also, I have a Bitcoin wallet, a Bitcoin Cash wallet, and an Ethereum wallet in the show notes. We're taking cryptocurrency. I have a Coinbase affiliation link. We're going to be getting on some other exchanges. So that's how you support the show. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. YouTube is unsubscribing us at an alarming rate. I have a PayPal button at grahamelwood.com. I even have a Venmo at Graham-Elwood. There's a lot of ways to support our show. We are getting crushed by YouTube. We've dipped under 73,000 subscribers because of YouTube. Thanks for supporting what we do.